What's up, guys? I'm Ken Nowitzki. You're listening to The Sharp Cut from the Iron Edge. I gotta be honest with y'all. I've been pretty fucking angry recently. Probably longer than recently, if I'm honest. And it's not at the world or a person or a thing. It's more at myself. I I found myself being really negative over the last year. Again, not at any one thing or anything, just like internally negative, and then that it was exuded externally, which made things probably worse. And I had a moment of like quiet realization recently where I've been dealing with this shoulder problem. Wasn't able to train properly for a couple months and couldn't figure out what it was. My wife's a physical therapist, checking all these different things, treating bicep, treating pec, treating lat, shoulder, whatever. Couldn't figure out what the fuck it was. And I had a knee thing a couple of years ago that, again, couldn't figure out what the hell it was. I just decided one day, listen, it's just pain. I want to squat. Fuck it, it's just pain. And I started training harder again, and my knee pain went away. Yeah, and sure, it regressed here and there, but eventually it got to the point where I can do what the hell I want again. And I'd been swallowing in self-pity with this shoulder recently. And it finally hit me that, over the last year, I've not done anything to really help myself and to change my situation. Sure, I've, been better in the gym and been better at diet, and I've had little bits there and, little bits of positive progress. But ultimately, I've not done anything to actually really, truly hit the root of the cause or address the heart of the problem, so to speak. And that's just left me in this spot where I'm just negative a lot of the fucking time. And it finally clicked where I'm like, man, you can sit here and you can be negative, or you can take ownership for it. And I started looking at everything in my life and like, okay, well, let's just take the shoulder as an example. When did you do your rehab work? When did you do your mobility work? When did you do whatever? And the answers haven't been. Started doing that. Started training a little bit harder. Not pushing it to like stupid levels, but just being like, okay, it's discomfort. Let's just see if it's like the knee. If I can push a bit harder, let's see what happens. Things got better. And that's what the lesson I'm trying to get through in this episode is that we can sit here, we can be angry at ourselves, or we can have this quiet frustration. But instead of using that as a sort of destructive force to essentially tear your fucking life apart, one piece at a time, use it as an informative piece of data that you can use and actually be introspective with it. Why am I angry? Why am I negative? What things in my life do I want to get better? And then at that point, choose responsibility. What do I need to do to make that thing better? In my case, I have to do my rehab work. I have to do my prehab stuff when I come into the gym to make sure that I can actually have a good session. Because when I have a good training session with this shoulder, my light, so to speak, turns up a notch. I feel more positive. I go home happier. I'm not an asshole and negative if my wife asks me a question, because now I'm not pissed off. I've had that win. So, use that anger, that frustration, and channel it productively. Ultimately, the anger and the frustration means you fucking care. Because if you didn't give a shit about this, then you're not going to be angry. If it didn't mean anything to you, there's no feeling, there's no emotion associated with it. I've been watching The Sopranos recently, and there's a part in there where Tony's in the psychiatrist's office and she asks him how he feels or whatever. And he goes, I don't feel nothing. Dead, empty. And I think that's the dangerous part. When you get to that point where you don't really have a feeling about something in your life, whether it's bettering your work situation, bettering your home life, whether it's as a husband, a father, whatever, bettering your physical well-being from a training perspective, your mental well-being. Once you stop caring about any of it, you've got nothing. So use that anger as a trigger and make your life better. Thank you for coming in and stopping to listen to the shortcut. Shortcut? Jesus Christ. I need more coffee. The Sharp Cut. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Sharp Cut, and I'll catch you down the road.